Hello. My name is Aditi Seshadri, and I'm currently a junior at Notre Dame San Jose High School. And I'm here to present to you today my project called Where Supermarket Redlining and Food Insecurity Meet the Circular Economy. My project explores the relationship between supermarket redlining and food insecurity while investigating the benefits of redistributing wasted food. By examining the impact of supermarket redlining on food access and the role of food waste, I identify strategies to help ensure equitable access to healthy foods for all. I analyze various nuanced outcomes of supermarket redlining that can result in food insecurity for low income communities. And finally, I propose the use of a circular model to alleviate the supermarket redlining problem. Currently, millions live in low income areas that are less desirable locations for supermarkets because the chances of making high profit margins are low. Without access to supermarkets, however, individuals cannot buy in bulk, which forces them to pay higher prices in addition to having a low income. Supermarkets choosing not to locate in these specific areas is called supermarket redlining, and it exacerbates food insecurity by not allowing healthy, nutritious foods to reach those in need. Food insecurity on its own has two levels. The first is low food security, where individuals endure reduced quality, variety, and desirability of diet. The second is very low food security, where people suffer from limited food budgets, skipped meals, and calorie restricted diets. Supermarkets wasting billions of tons of consumable food annually opens up a path for long term equitable redistribution. Food insecurity is a global issue affecting over 2.3 billion people worldwide, including 40 million Americans, and it is linked to poverty, poor health outcomes, and significant economic costs. In the United States alone, an estimated $15 billion worth of consumable fruits and vegetables goes to waste annually. Worse still, nearly 30% of food in American grocery stores is thrown away, which is roughly 16 billion pounds of food waste every year. Now that I've defined these terms and this overall problem, let's go into what caused this in the first place. Redlining stems from the 1930s itself, following the Great Depression. As a discriminatory practice, banks denied mortgages to people of color, preventing them from buying homes in certain neighborhoods. This was regarding housing. While supermarket redlining specifically began in the 1960s, the spatial patterns created by 1930s redlining influenced later retail development, including supermarkets. Looking at a visual representation taken from a Cambridge study, it's clear that there has been a continual reduction in household income, and this is linked to a reduction in the percentage of healthy food retailers in specific geographic area. These supermarket redline areas actually become known as food deserts, which are socioeconomically disadvantaged neighborhoods and have high levels of low-income populations that are food insecure. Two key examples include Noxubee County in Mississippi, which is classified as a food desert due to its lack of grocery stores, and Hartford, Connecticut, where 37% of preschool students surveyed were obese because they had to turn towards unhealthy alternatives. This proves that the implications of supermarket vending do not only start with people not gaining access to food, but also jeopardizing the health of future generations. With about 20% of the global population being impacted, the United Nations obviously decided to address this problem. They've created two goals that involve this, called Zero Hunger and Responsible Consumption and Production. The first goal requires addressing the root causes of food insecurity, including structural racism, deepening inequalities that result from supermarket redlining, and solutions that only work in the short term. The second goal, responsible consumption and production, focuses more on the food waste aspect, and it involves supermarket redlining because they generate billions of tons of it every year. Given an issue with this kind of volume, it's also obvious that there are other solutions that have been proposed in the past. The first example is the California Senate bill, enacted in 2022, mandating large supermarkets to donate unsold but consumable food to the less fortunate. However, this idea faced challenges because it failed to promote an overall more equitable food system. The next one is Project Muse, which redistributed surplus food that was otherwise discarded. However, this plan faced sustainability challenges because they relied on a mobile app, therefore requiring consistent technological access and literacy. SNAP is yet another initiative primarily focused on food stamps. With research from my paper, however, I found that these currently do not enable individuals who are food insecure to achieve their individual needs of food security. For example, food stamps for any person who qualifies to receive one from this governmental program would not be enough to buy quality foods in a grocery store and also may not be tangible with all families. Lastly, food banks play a critical role in recovering and distributing unsaleable but nutritious foods from retail partners. They primarily operate as nonprofits, and the way food is distributed to food banks is based on a hierarchical system, making larger food banks receive more and smaller ones receive less. However, their own needs, such as size, type, and whether or not they already had sufficient food in the first place, is not taken into account, thus resulting in excess waste. There are also arguments that state that supermarket redlining could theoretically be solved by the redistribution of food, but it's impossible due to the type of society that we live in, where profit is prioritized by companies, leading them on to choose areas where they can make the most profit. They don't account for those that require access to healthy foods. Even if it were to be achieved, surplus food redistribution is just one part of the solution to addressing food insecurity, and it is essential to work towards creating a more equitable food system that prioritizes the needs of all individuals, regardless of their background or socioeconomic status. In terms of how redistribution could work, data from a ResearchGate study from 2022 illustrates that when surplus food was redistributed, 78% of it was eaten. And there was also a substantial rebound effect, offsetting 51% of potential carbon emission savings from food donations. This means that despite the rebound effect, redistributing surplus food still results in a greater net positive impact on the environment compared to another common method of managing food waste, anaerobic digestion. Broadly, food waste can be categorized into unwasted consumable food, wasted consumable food, and wasted non-consumable food. As described earlier, solutions exist for unwasted consumable food and wasted non-consumable food, but there are no sustainable solutions for wasted consumable food. The diagram shown presents two situations. Situation 1, where instead of losing money by paying waste management to take the food off of their hands, supermarkets gain more money, establishing a new revenue stream. This allows circularity to be established by reinvesting money back into the system for it to repeat. And situation 2, where there is no new revenue stream established, but there is money as supermarkets do not pay waste management, therefore enabling circularity. With these two situations presented, situation 1 is clearly more sustainable and feasible because a new revenue stream is generated, creating a better incentive for supermarkets in situation 2. There are, however, ways to make this incentive even stronger for supermarkets to actually adopt the circular model. A two-step approach can be acquired to achieve this. Making the cost of wasted consumable food visible and quantifiable to supermarkets will show them how much money they could save. Supermarkets also have a tendency to externalize costs, but in doing so, they underestimate these costs that then compound over time, leaving them in a complex dilemma. Shifting the cost from external factors is not feasible, and by forcing supermarkets to go circular, they break this cycle of externalizing costs and mitigate future risks. Though the approach proposed in this paper is feasible, there are still gaps that require more research to be conducted in the following areas regarding actual quantification, breaking the cost externalization cycle, and behavioral science. Looking deeper into the behavioral aspects, it's important to note that low-income communities are often accustomed to eating cheaper, unhealthy foods, which are addictive in nature due to sugar and saturated fats, making it more difficult to break the habit even when healthier alternatives become accessible. Creating a nutrition plan program that educates people about these kinds of facts can help address this. Ultimately, this project proposes the application of a circular model to food waste management that could alleviate food insecurity while incentivizing supermarkets to build long-term solutions to the redlining problem. This, along with behavioral challenges discussed, directly impacts how low-income families can access healthy foods and providing them a pathway to higher levels of food security. Thank you so much for your time. And I know I couldn't be there today, but here are some questions that may have come up, so I decided to provide some answers here. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.